Charges, you can see it's not there. Let's see, charges is written a second time, right around somewhere. And rather and in false. Oh, that's where the second time was. Oh, well, the first time, that was the second time. Anyways, mental, and then health. Let's see. Other than that, you can also see. So there's something that I was done to change. So I'll go ahead and just show an example. So you can see rigid, jagged line structure for my lettering. These are examples of Y's. Singular straight line protruding from the bottom pen or pencil stroke. This was before I was hypnotized to do what's called a felon's claw. So as you can see, like, these are examples of felon's claws, and it's the acute angle in the line in the bottom portion of protruding from the line. I mean, from the letter. Sorry about that. The hypnosis is really inhibiting my ability to speak right now. So, that is also apparent that it's not present. You can see that in the G there. You can see, let's see, the Y right here. You can also see, let's see, hypnotherapy. You can see it's not there. The Y as well. You can see it's not there in the Y or the second Y. You can barely see that it's not there in the word everyone in the letter Y. Also in do you. I mean, there is a little bit of a smearing there, but still. And the reason why that's called a felon's claw, the acute angle, instead of like the curved line. So there's G, G, Y, Y, and and J as well. That was the other letter that I forgot to include. So this was before, and this was after. So that this is a characteristic in graphology that is present in 90% of inmates in the penitentiary. So it's a characteristic of deceit, but of course with my general honesty and trustworthiness and lack of deceitful behavior, it's not a natural tendency, but with a hypnosis, I was taught intentionally and deliberately to alter that. Let's see. Also, in the way that I dot my I's, or J's as well. Let's see. So that's how I dot my I's now. This is how I used to dot my I's. Just simple examples then. Let's see. Hypnotized also just increased curvature in general. For example, with letter M, used to be rather rigid lines and borders, edges, and hypnotized to add a lot more curvature and changing that. Same with W's generally, although you could see some variations from that occasionally in my handwriting. Let's see, like you can see that in the letter W right there, for example. The W is much less rigid and jagged, but much more curved. But regardless, let's see if there is anything else. Oh, the E's, that's right, that's specifically. So let's see, so lowercase e, this is how I used to draw my lowercase e's. This was how I used to draw my capital letter E's. I was hypnotized to begin drawing them like backwards number 3s. And to think of M and M, or to think that it represented Eminem, even though Eminem actually does uses a number 3 to draw an E, and even like a block shaped number 3. But regardless of such, a variation of that. And let's see, so you can see that the letter E's, it's most noticeable in the lowercase letter E's, because that's where the most significant variation and just the structure of the letter itself is apparent. So you can see there is the loop at the top of the letter that is just not present in my handwriting anymore. I mean, you can see it's curved, but it's an open loop, and it looks like a backwards number 3. And I believe, to summarize it for the most part, same thing with letter Y, like this. Also, to clarify, I used to write G's kind of like that. Now I write them like this, much further indentation. Almost a opened bean shape, actually. Let's see. I believe that's about it. In general, with the handwriting variations. So you can see it is pretty apparent. F's. That was one of the things that I was also hypnotized to draw, but that was one of the things I was hypnotized to draw less curvy, because I used to write my letter F's like that. Now I do it like this. Much larger contrast, and the every protrusion from the lines, basically, and in my handwriting. And I mean, again, you can see this is dated on the front, and also rejected by the post office. So August 26, 2020. So, let's see then. The postcards are actually the only sample I have of my handwriting before I was taught to change my handwriting and the letter formation and handwriting with hypnosis while in jail. So I showed those variations. Actually, I repeated myself. I censored a portion of the send to address, which you were able to see the little orange sticky note portions. Just because it contains some personal information, an address, although the date stamp is left uncensored as evidence on one of the postcards, and the word East is uncensored on the other postcard as evidence I was hypnotized to begin altering my handwriting, and the letter formation in my handwriting seen in the letter E and East. That was on this postcard specifically. You can see right here. And that's also the first time that you can see the variation. You can see, for example, the lowercase e's do not have that formation that I was hypnotized to change, which is rather consistent. The E is a little bit faded. You can't really see it there. The return address is a little bit too blocky to use as a really very reliable example. I'm just trying to think if there's any other capital letter E's here that I could use. There is a little bit more handwriting too. Let's see. I was hypnotized to think writing on the sides or edges or borders of the postcards were metaphorically considered writing on the walls and was illegal, like when a referee penalizes a player in a game of football. And I was hypnotized to think writing on the walls of the postcard was the reason postcards were denied and returned by the post office, or in other words, illegal, like breaking the rules type of thing. So let's see, you can see that I'm writing on the edges and the borders of the postcard. This one's a little bit more all over the place. Let's see, you can see it at the top here on this postcard. Let's see. Oh, you can see the, you can see this one is, the edges are, the Corners are more sharp, edged. The edges and corners are more sharp, rigid. Straight lines instead of curved. Let's see, on this, you can see where I wrote that. Jail is making me worse. It's torture. Let me out, please. There we go. Not the most legible there, but regardless. And then I don't think you see it anywhere else on here. The writing on this postcard isn't the best to use for evidence either necessarily, and is a little bit confusing without explanation for context. Let's see. I don't know what that picture was supposed to be either, by the way. It looks like that was a picture of something. At least. I don't know what that is, though. So, I mean, there is that. Yeah, you can vaguely see the pill imprint there. Regardless of such, I'm not sure if this was just a circle in general. Oh, I think this was supposed to be a peach. Doesn't I mean, it's just a colored in circle entirely, but that's why it has princess written under it, like Princess Peach off of the video game Mario. I don't know what this is. But yeah, anyways, so those are the best examples that I got for that. Moving on. The hypnotist told me they were going to take me to the laundromat. I was hypnotized to feel dizziness, confusion, nausea, dysphoria, drowsiness, disorientation, and to experience memory loss whenever I resisted post-hypnotic suggestions or hypnotic commands. And I was hypnotized to feel like my brain was spinning in a washing machine on the spin cycle, turning to mush because they were, quote, brainwashing me. It's a metaphor, and it's also a hypnotic command used to induce confusion and all the other unpleasant or inhibitory sensations I described. The washing machines that I was hypnotized to draw, which basically just resembled a very simple box with a circle in it, like you can see here. Typically they would have been filled in also, by the way. Sometimes, typically, in like the practical sense, it would have looked more like this, with this being the darkest and this being less shaded, because I was using them to cover up mistakes in my handwriting. So I had to shade it in order to cover it up. And then in order to make it look like it wasn't just a square or just a simple box, I had to draw the little circle inside darker than the rest of the shading. Anyways, so that's a reference for that. You can see that on some of these drawings here, like right here. There's a washing machine, and there's another washing machine, I believe, on here somewhere. Possibly, maybe not necessarily, but regardless, if I can't find it on this one, then it should show up on here. Oh wait, there it is. Underneath the song Brainless by Eminem. Alright, so moving on. When I was in jail, I was hypnotized to draw coffins over my mistakes in my handwriting. since I wasn't given an eraser. When I was cued to draw coffins, I was hypnotized to imagine seeing the album cover for the song Coffin by Eminem and Jessie Reyes. And I was hypnotized to think that Eminem wanted me to draw coffins representing his album, Music to be Murdered By. In an attempt to conceal the hypnosis abusively inhibiting me, I was hypnotized to think that there were specific terms and conditions in the contract with the Make-A-Wish Foundation that my hand would cramp while writing song names and artist names and some of the hypnotic art collages. If the song or artist wasn't one of my absolute favorite songs or artists, typically would be the context for this. This was also done to excuse the hypnotic inhibition as something that was my fault to conceal the abuse, such as hypnotizing me to think my hand was cramping because I didn't care about Cody enough instead of my hand cramping as a method of concealing evidence of murder. The hypnotic art collages were made by telling a story, message, or idea, by writing a series of song titles by my favorite artists and drawing over mistakes in my handwriting with various pictures I was hypnotized to draw. In an attempt to change the format of the hypnotic collages I was hypnotized to try, I was hypnotized to try a different format based off Eminem's album Music to be Murdered By. But I didn't like the format as much as what I was already doing, and the hypnosis wasn't altering my handwriting in the manner necessary for the alternative format to work either. The alternative hypnotic collage format was to think of the hypnotic collage as a competition where the best songs or the best artist would win. For example, each song and artist I wrote down would be compared to the next song and artist I wrote down, and I would be hypnotized to cramp my hand while writing the song and artist that lost, resulting in me having to draw a picture over the losing song and artist in the picture. I was hypnotized to think that the coffins I was hypnotized to draw would metaphorically represent Eminem murdering the other artists in the competition by winning and simultaneously promoting his newest album, Music to be Murdered By, with a metaphor. An example of this was being hypnotized to think if Justin Bieber was my favorite artist, it meant I was Mormon, and that if Eminem was my favorite artist, it meant I was political. The content I was writing pertained to trauma from finding Cody dead in the woods, and the concept was that if I was religious, I would have viewed the death as forgivable because everything happens for a reason, and he's in a better place now. But if I was political, I would have viewed his death as a murder. I made a mistake in my handwriting, and I wanted to draw a simple bushy tree with a noose knot hanging from the tree next to the abbreviation MTBMB, which stood for Music to be Murdered By, because I thought it was wrong what they did to him and that hypnotizing someone to commit suicide was equivalent to murder. I was actually hypnotized not to draw trees because it was too specific to Cody's murder, while a box could represent several other things besides a coffin. I was hypnotized to mess up the drawing of the tree because the hypnosis could repress the drawing from my memory afterwards as long as it didn't have a tree drawn on the picture. I was hypnotized to prevent me from developing the habit of drawing it. I was hypnotized to draw the base of the tree too large, turning the drawing into a picture of a nuclear power plant cooling tower, and to think of world power referring to electricity, and to think of Russia. Then I was hypnotized to mess up the nuclear power plant cooling tower by drawing the object too wide, turning the picture into a mushroom cloud from a nuclear explosion or nuclear bomb, and to think that the meaning of the abbreviation MTBMB changed from music to be murdered by to music to bomb. I was hypnotized to think that the mushroom cloud meant dropping the bomb that Eminem was my favorite artist because he's political. The metaphorical representation that the drawing was about music was also used as a method of distraction from the hypnosis concealing evidence of murder. Let's see. When I was hypnotized, I was also told, wait, hold on just a second. So I wanted to go ahead and just show an example of what I was describing in there. So what I was, let's see, this one might be a little bit easier of an example to elaborate, possibly. I'll go ahead and get started with, actually, I'm going to go ahead and use this example. So, for example, one song that would represent me, you know, the staircase represented, me risking jumping off of a flight of stairs, or in order to receive the medical care and the medications I actually needed, I would have had to jump off a flight of stairs and break my legs, which would be represented by drawing the staircase, and then could use a variety of different songs to also depict that, such as the song Knees by Bebe Rexha. Let's see. This could also be depicted. Let's see. There's another song by Billie Eilish called Bad Guy. A little bit more covered up, though, actually. But you can see that, that would kind of represent, like, it looks more like the stick figure's doing splits or something, but it's supposed to be like broken knees. Regardless of such, she references knees and being injured in the lyrics for her song. And then let's see. So, if I ended up breaking my knees in jail for my medications, then Bear River would have been flooded with phone calls, and they would have had the staff would be like wearing flood pants because they would be flooded with phone calls. There would be waves of phone calls about me. Let's see, and then Bear River is flooded with phone calls about me. There's a phone to also represent that. And then waves also representing, the river flooding and the waves of phone calls flooding in. So then, the lyrics referenced by in the song Fantasy by Alina Baraz and Gali Matias, partially censored, just to ensure no copyright is violated. Let's see. So that's one example of it. There were also the lyrics in the Billie Eilish song, unfortunately, had to censor those to avoid a copyright violation as well. But regardless of such, that is what it is. Let's see, you can see the... so there is quite a bit of symbolism in a lot of these drawings, though, as well, from... Let's see, the door representing my mother, knocking on heaven's door, knocking on her door, or even could represent death, could have various different meanings simultaneously as well. And you can kind of see how it would just turn into an art collage, writing one song after another, and then just meshing them together with various drawings. So the concept that I was describing with... the music to be murdered by would have basically been like, as you can see on here, let's see if I can find, could use various different drawings for examples. Let's see, there is a coffin, okay? So you can see it's just a little black rectangle, which is supposed to represent a coffin. So let's say, for example, I made a mistake in my handwriting, and I drew a coffin over, one of the songs, and then I would write a different song that I liked better than that song, whatever the case may be. And basically you could get an idea or a gist of what the theme would be there. So you can see also where the base and top of the structure here for like a tree turn into like a nuclear power plant cooling tower. And then, of course, that could also develop into like a mushroom cloud, regardless of how thin and how much contrast there is and the width there of the simple drawing. But you kind of get the idea and the gist of it. This was done to conceal me drawing anything specifically relating or pertaining to death or murder in the situation, which is actually more evident in and of itself, because a tree was, something that was just a very simple object. Most people can draw and doodle very easily, just like how I described the pictures in the death threat letters, such as the triangle with a cross in it, or simple flower. Anyways, moving on. So when I was hypnotized, I was also told that my friend named Delaney wrote the Make-A-Wish Foundation for me, and that Donald Trump responded to the letter. They told me Donald Trump was a multi-billionaire and that he was going to make all my wishes come true and give me, quote, everything I wanted for the Make-A-Wish Foundation. I was then told that the hypnosis was actually so that Donald Trump would get everything he wanted. The situation was compared to the cartoon The Simpsons, as if they were explaining it to a little kid by explaining it to me. They told me to imagine Mr. Burns, the owner of the nuclear power plant, wanting to get rid of the three-eyed fish that mutated from nuclear waste being illegally dumped in the local pond, and Mr. Burns wanting to keep the three-eyed fish off the news. Metaphorically speaking, in the situation, Donald Trump was Mr. Burns, I was the fish, and my hyperventilation syndrome was the fish's third eye mutation that Mr. Burns wanted to keep off the news.